"40 candles are lit here this evening. These candles represent Wanda Green and all the members of Flight 93 for whom this park is dedicated. The significance of Flight 93 is that these hero passengers and crew knew this was a terrorist attack and chose to fight back, preventing more catastrophic events on that fateful day 17 years ago. This candlelight vigil has been held since this park was dedicated by the city of Linden after 9/11. It has been the intention of many of you who come here yearly to remember the innocent victims who lost their lives to senseless violence perpetrated purely by hate. Tonight, we remember the feeling of sadness, grief, shock, and horror felt by so many of us at the most deadliest attack in U.S. history. We remember our first responders, police, firefighters, EMTs, who never thought twice about helping. While others naturally ran away, they ran in to save people, many not returning to their families. Tonight, we ask you to join us as we remember all the victims and heroes of September 11, 2001.
If we may all look to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, in liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Before I ask Mayor Armstead to come up and speak, I'd like to introduce to you some of the people standing up here with me this evening. I have Chief Dooley of our fire department, Chief Dave Hart from our police department, Second Ward Councilman Barry Javik, First Ward Councilwoman Lisa Orman. We have from our Girl Scout troop, Mary Ann Ellis, who did the Pledge of Allegiance. And we have, of course, Mayor Armstead, our 7th Ward Councilman Ralph Strano, and our 6th Ward Councilman John Roman. So I'd like to thank them for coming out here this evening. Now, without further ado, I'd like to ask Mayor Armstead to please come up.
Good evening, everybody. It's hard to believe that it's been 17 years. I think some of us who've been around for a while, I think each and every one of us can remember almost exactly where we were when this tragic event occurred. For me, I was on my way into work, and the security guard, Ron, came to me. He says, a plane just landed, crashed into the Twin Towers. Now, at first, we thought it was just maybe a simple small Cessna that had fallen, that had struck the building. And he said, no, it was a jet, a 747. So we went upstairs, and of course, we're all watching the television and watching with bated breath as the events were unfolding. And right before our very own eyes, we saw another jet plow into the second tower. And right then and there, we knew that there was something wrong. We said, there's something going on here. Couldn't quite figure it all out, but we knew something was going on. Shortly thereafter, we heard about a plane crashing into the Pentagon. And then we knew we were under attack. But I'll say this about that particular day and the days that followed. As Americans, somehow, when things are at their absolute worst, we as Americans, we can be our absolute best. So when that plane, flight number 93, went down, I know that the people on that plane, those Americans, were at their absolute best. They knew something was going on, and they knew that that plane was going to be a target and it was going to harm other Americans. And they stepped up, and they were at their absolute best. And that plane crashed in Pennsylvania, but can you imagine what would have happened had it not crashed in Pennsylvania? There would have been more carnage. It was the ultimate sacrifice. And that's who we are as Americans. We are people who are willing to sacrifice to make our country a better place, to make our lives and our families a better, give them a better opportunity to succeed. And this is what this attack was about. It was about individuals who just can't seem to fathom that as Americans, through thick and thin, that comes first. We'll always be Americans. We'll give our lives to make this place a better place for everybody to live in. Our first responders, when everybody else is running out, as Michelle mentioned, they're the ones going in. That's what makes us great, that when things are at their absolute worst, we're at our absolute best. And so I'd say, God bless this country. God bless the members of Flight 93, and let this park serve as a reminder, the Wanda Green Memorial Park, that in Linden, when things are at their absolute best, we here can be when things are at their absolute worst, we here in Linden could be at our absolute best. God bless you all. Thank you all for coming out.
Thank you, Mayor Armstead. Now I'd like to ask our Police Chief, David Hart, to please come up and speak regarding our police officers.
Thank you very much. As Councilwoman Yamakaitis emailed me early in the week, she wanted me to talk about the fallen officers and our first responding officers on that day. But I think I want to talk about all of our first responders. And I want to mention, we mention this every year, but it's important to remember the carnage of not only our citizens and those on Flight 93, but what happened at the World Trade Center, where 37 Port Authority police officers were killed, 23 New York City police officers, 343 brave firefighters, and 8 EMS workers. On that day, 17 years ago, first responders, including police, fire, and EMS, responded to the towers doing what they do best. They were there to help people. They were running in as others were running out, doing their jobs. In total, 412 first responders perished that day in Lower Manhattan. In Linden, our police and fire departments mobilized to not only secure our city and make sure we were safe here in town, but to assist wherever and whenever needed in New York City. Off-duty firefighters and police officers responded in that day and that whole week without pay, asking, can I help you here in Linden? Can we go to New York? And we pulled together as one group. And over days and weeks and months following, the Linden Police and Fire Department stood side by side, ensuring that Linden was safe and we assisted New York City Police and Fire Departments. This later included going to Fresh Kills landfill, where our police and firemen were searching for remains and any identification of all those lost over in the World Trade Center. Today, more than ever, we are united as first responders, police, fire, and EMS together in Linden and in this country. We must never forget the sacrifices of all the brave citizens in Pennsylvania, in New York, and in Washington, and of course, our own Wanda Green. We must never forget the sacrifices of all the first responders that day in Lower Manhattan. We must remain vigilant in our dangerous world today. We cannot forget the past and bravery of all those on that day. We will always overcome adversity. We will always be a generous and loving country. We will always stand together, and we will never forget, especially our own Wanda Green. Thank you very much.
I would like to ask Chief Joseph Dooley from the Linden Fire Department to please come up.
Thank you, Michelle. Good evening, everyone. Those of you who have been here the last couple of years and have heard me speak, you know that tonight, for me anyway, this is always about Wanda Green. This morning, we had our fire department service where the fire department, police department joined together. Many people here today were here also this morning. And we talked mostly about the police and the firefighters and the sacrifice they made. And I told a little story. When I get ready to speak, there's two things I have to try to figure out. One is, what is my message? And the other thing, who's my audience? Every year, my audience has been this neighborhood and the family of Wanda Green. As we were leading up into these days, there's a couple of things that happened that kind of shaped my thoughts for this year. One was last Thursday, a handful of our firefighters were over at a military monument named after George Farwell that had fallen into disrepair, and they were cleaning it up with the intention of their next park being this one here. That idea from them really kind of struck me, because typically we look at this day as a day of remembering and honoring fallen first responders, yet here was a handful of firefighters, union members, who were giving back. It stuck with me. Saturday, I was at another 9/11 event at the Empty Sky Monument in Jersey City. When I asked the gentleman who was the reason I was there, it was a group of bagpipers, how he got aligned with this event, he had told me that 2 years ago in his office, Homeland Security, they did a little internal service, and it really moved everybody, and they were looking for some more meaningful way to memorialize these events. And in his process of looking, he discovered that today is really a National Day of Service. And when he told me that, right away my brain clicked right back to those firefighters that were working on that monument and his organization Saturday that was working to support this 5K run. This morning, when I started my day, one of the first things I saw was a Facebook post from one of our retired firemen who posted 14 pictures of our operations in the Fresh Kills landfill. And that's when it really struck me. That's what tied everything in for me. That this day isn't about just first responders. It isn't about just the victims in New York, but it's really about the whole nation and this idea of service. And I realized then that this fire department, and of course our police department's service back to our country, began on 9/11, when, without even thinking about it, we all went about what we needed to do. But more importantly, in those 3 months after 9/11, tirelessly how members of this fire department and police department spent their time in Fresh Kills landfill. This is a day of service. I'm very proud of our organizations. I'm very proud of the firefighters who have started this monument campaign. And I'm really proud to announce that Operation Restore Honor is a program that's being started by our union. And they're going to go out to these 15 monuments in the city and work over time with the help of Recreation and Public Works to restore these memorials the way they should be. And I'm very proud of them. It talks to me and tells me that this is about a nation. It isn't about one group or another. It's about everybody working together to restore our communities, to honor the fallen, and tonight to remember Wanda Green. Thank you. At this time, we're going to share with the neighborhood one of our more solemn rites. Whenever a firefighter passes away, we do a tolling of the bells. 4 sets of 5 rings. It's something we do for every funeral, and we'd like to share that with you all tonight.
"17 years later, we stand here tonight with a new generation of children who live in a world that has been forever changed by this tragic event. This remembrance is not only for us to heal and unite as a community and a nation, but to educate our youth on how hate, anger, and fear can cause tragedy. We must teach our children to love those who look different from us and have beliefs and customs that differ from our own. We do this by example. I asked our Girl Scouts to come here this evening. Many of the girls standing here were not even born, are not even 17 years old. So It's important we educate them about our history of this tragic day. So I want to thank them. They're from Troop 40314, so thank you, girls. I want to also thank Mayor Armstead and our city officials for their participation this evening, our police and fire departments, as well as our new recruits, the Central Jersey Drum and Pipes Band, of the VFW post who comes out here every year to support this event, our recreation department, and of course, Mr. Richie Check, who makes this whole sound system possible, so thank you. I must also give a special thank you, as the chief mentioned, to the Linden Fire Department FMBA, and especially firefighter Mike Jackson, who last year was looking at the monuments. He said, we need to clean this up. So they took it upon the FMBA to start working on cleaning up many of the monuments, as the chief had mentioned, around the city. So I thank them for all their hard work and weeding the park and everything. They did a wonderful job, and from the bottom of my heart, you guys are the best. I just want to say thank you again to everyone for coming out here, and God bless you all for joining us in this remembrance of the victims of September 11, 2011. Have a safe trip home, everyone.